Well, good evening. Thank you for participating. For those people who are from New England, I can see several people of you who are watching this presentation. This presentation is really
Yeah,
done in behalf of Seven Mountains
where those
Audubon
people are.
Society in Pennsylvania. Uh,
Okay.
so that's why the our presenter Bill was talking about various birds that in the local area. So who is me? Dan O. Um, I grew up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and
Oh,
now lives in north of Boston area called North Shore. I graduated from University of Pittsburgh, the enemy of Penn State. And I was, if you know Ralph Schaefer or Laurie Schaefer, Ralph was my roommate at University of Pittsburgh, and Laurie was a good friend at the time. My connection with Seven Mountains is several of Audubon members came to Massachusetts to see snowy owl and long-eared owl a few years ago. And then last year, about five folks from the Seven Mountains came to see puffins in Maine, which I lead. I'm a retired chemical engineer. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm not an ornithologist nor expert in snowy owl and common loons, but I call myself a citizen scientist by observing them for days and hours over the last 8 years. My office and laboratory is the nature. I do have a second career with no income from it, a wildlife photography, and I go out every day except for on Sunday mornings. I intentionally do not pursue any commerce or displays in galleries. Only if I ask, then I do sell metal or acrylic prints, but that's really not. I try to stay away from commerce because I felt it was sort of robbing me of joy rather than focusing on what's really important for me. Um, I do lead various trips, such as to Ecuador, Newfoundlands, Sax-Zim Bog in Minnesota. I do annual trips to Puffin trip on Machias Seal Island up in Maine, and I'm planning to lead a group in Alaska in 2027. And I only really do it with friends. I do cover my expenses, but not. I don't really gain monetary profit. Snowy owl is my spark bird. In fact, one of the audience from this presentation, Dick Wright, who was a professor in Gordon College, a Christian college, and a PhD from Harvard, was the one who is to be blamed for me loving birding. Before that, I thought people who are birding were crazy. Okay, common loon is my summer passion. Um, I even have a custom kayak just for loons. Uh, I do have YouTube channels, Instagram, Facebook, so I can share my joy and passion. Okay, when do they come to New England? Uh, the common loons arrive to lakes in May and leave in September back to the ocean. The reason why they leave the lakes is because it gets frozen. So that's where they leave and come back. Snowy owls arrive in late November and leave in mid-April back to Arctic tundra. And the reason why I chose these two birds is because I feel that they are really iconic birds of New England. And I know that Pennsylvania has the loons and the snowy owls, but um, I think we do have some unique feature that other places don't offer, like a Midwest or even in Canada. Where do you find common loons? Again, May to September. There are 6,000 lakes in Maine and 1,300 in New Hampshire. And as the eBird indicates, all these blue and red markers show where they are present. So it's quite common in New England. But today I'm going to be focusing a lot of about the I guess mating pair and their little baby chicks. You call it loonlet. That's their name. If you want to see baby loonlet, then look for eBird and reporting with typically two common loons. A lot of time, I mean, vast majority of people don't report babies for protection, and so they don't do that. But they do report having two pairs or something like that. So that's something that give you a little bit of information. If you are at the lake, then listen for wailing sounds in early morning or dusk. It's very, very clear and long-reaching. There's a large silhouette with a pointed beak. They're quite large. I was right next to a common loon mother, and they are huge, and they could weigh up to 19 pounds. Um, I just think they're so beautiful. Here, another shot here. I won't be getting into this. I think you could search the web and find out the different voices of common loon. But if you do ever have time, yodeling is something that males loon feel if they feel threatened. They will holler it out. So if you're going to be close to loon, that's something to be watching, and you back off. Same thing with tremolo, and I won't go into that yet. But okay, now we go into where do you find snowy owls in New England? Okay, they come late November and they stay till mid-April. Typically coastal beach high points such as dune or driftwoods. Uh, this is top of the dune. You can see snowy owl sitting there. Woods, or they could be sitting on a man-made roof, posts, or jetties. I'll talk about this jetty. It's one of the reasons why they like to be in jetty is because they like to eat ducks. But um, the way you identify a lot of times silhouette is that, in fact, Brand Bacon said when he was in New England, they look like a white trash plastic bag from far away. It could be quite confusing about that, but you could see that kind of elliptical sideways. That's how you determine the silhouette. One thing is I never post location on eBirds for both the common loon and the snowy owl, just because they're so sensitive bird. One time, a guy from California came in our area, and he was so excited, and was his life bird, and he posted on his eBird both videos, YouTubes, and photos, everything, right down to the address and everything. He was so excited about it. But what that did is that the neighborhood that had the snowy owl really hated the birders and made the whole scenery really crowded and things like that. So that's why I really don't post like I call it sensitive birds on eBird, even though I use it. Maybe hypocritical, but that's how I do it. This is eBird indication of the snowy owls in Boston area. Here's a Boston area. You might wonder why in the world snowy owl would hang around in downtown Boston area. But actually, the reason why they're hanging around there is because there's a Logan Airport. And as you know, even in Pennsylvania, a lot of snowy owls hang around in the airport because it kind of is flat and it resembles North Pole. So that's why one of the reasons why there's a lot of snowy owls there. Uh, the south of Boston is the Cape Cod area, and there's a lot of that. And the main reason is because, again, the beaches, sand dunes, and marshes, all those areas resemble North Pole. Lastly, this is called North Shore area. That's where I live and I hang around, even though I really travel the whole New England area to see snowy owl. But this is the area that I hang around with, and there's been just wonderful opportunity that we get to see in New England that other areas don't really present. If you go to Canada, a lot of times snowy owls are sitting in the middle of farmland or on a telephone pole, and you just can't get a natural setting. Whereas in New England, they're sitting in the beach dunes, just resembles so much of the Arctic condition. So the scenery and you could get a very good environmental shots. Okay. Again, same thing about where they are. Um, um, I do visit every single day to look for snowy owl. I don't do that with loon because I don't live right next to a lake. Okay. One thing is I don't really like to share the location, especially if it's in neighborhoods or private beaches, because I really do want to have a good relationship with the neighbors and people who owns the private beaches. I just like to share with you one video that I submitted to National Audubon. Hope you could enjoy for a few seconds. Okay, I'll just give you a few tips on common loons. Um, One thing about loon is this: I talked about how big they are. They're 19 pounds. They could be 36 inches long. Their wingspan could be about 60 inches. The reason I mentioned that is you have to be careful. Even though they look so innocent and things like that, they're wildlife. Um, there was an article several years ago about a bald eagle being killed by a common loon. What happened was that the uh, you know loons are territorial. They're very protective of their chicks and their females. So these two males were fighting. Um, so anyway, they have killed bald eagle by piercing. They're using their beak to pierce into the heart of the bald eagle, and it got killed. Another thing that you really need to be sensitive about is common loons. There's always what you call a loon watchers in each lake, and they're resident volunteers who are extremely protective of common loons. And if you misbehave, what I mean by misbehave is that they would be harassing the loons. Some people, like have a powerboat and they don't really care about, you know, uh, running right over next to it, So if these watchers are observing and they see a behavior of people using powerboats or photographers who are really getting so close and stressing them out, they would really call the state agency to report that. So you just have to be really careful and not to do that. Um, the loon nest can be on islands or cove. where it is more secluded. The nest may be about a foot or two from the water. And I strongly advise all, to avoid getting close by. Now, the reason why they're only 1 or 2 feet from the water is because common loon really, they could walk, but they can't really walk on the ground because their legs are so far behind, and their physiology is such that they're designed for swimming. And so they have to really nest very, very close to the water in order for them to get in the water, but also their chicks likewise. Now, the reason why I was able to photograph is because I was using 600 millimeter photograph and actually photographed this on the land, not on the kayak. So it doesn't really stress them out. And I believe this was like about 30 minutes to 40 minutes before the sunrise. So, so she is sitting on the land, only 1 or 2 feet away from the water, and she did have, I believe this year she had one chick. Okay, this is kind of yeah. So two things, be careful with the loon. Don't go too close because they are wildlife. Just be careful with that. Respect the loon watchers, the residents who live there, and also just understand that when they start incubating, they nest about 26 to 30 days. The places that I go to see the baby common loons are toward the end of June. Um, and one thing that's so cool about the common loon is that when the babies hatch, the whole evening lights up. What I mean by that is that the parents vocalize, like they are celebrating, because their chicks are born, and you could hear that miles away. So it's a really wonderful thing to see. Here's a picture of a little baby coming soon as born. Is immediately they as soon as they hatch, just within a few days, they just go down to the water. Okay. I'm just not gonna talk about this a lot, but I am very fortunate to be able to photograph some loons because it's a lot of nests. They have been nesting every single year, and they live pretty much in front of my friend's house, so I could go there. It's a private land, and I could photograph them on the land, but most of the time you really need a kayak or pontoon boat to do that. So only thing that I really want to emphasize is that it's got to be really a stable kayak, and avoid having like a round bottom kayak. Like mine has what you call double hull kayak. This particular kayak could be purchased around $600 to $700. So it's not a very expensive option, and it's only 10 foot. So yeah, you can see the double hull design here. I'm just going to go real quickly. I'm not going to talk about this a lot. That's me. I'm at the lake, and here, do you see a kind of propeller on my back of my kayak? It's actually battery powered kayak. I'm kind of cheating. I have paddle just for the show. But anyway, this is me going out to photograph loons. Okay, one thing that I'd like everybody to really get out of my presentation is this particular point. How do you photograph a very sensitive birds like common loon and snowy owl without really stressing them out. Okay. Of course, common way of stressing out is the encroaching upon them. Okay. But the thing is that the rule of photography is that you could only really get a sharp photo. Not only, but one of the critical point is that you have to go close. You can't shoot miles away. And the reason is because a lot of times you know the focal length and haze on the ground is a really critical point. But if you really want to get a good great photo, you have to go close. But how do you do that without really stressing the birds? So I call this predictive positioning. Now that sounds like I know exactly where to go and be able to anticipate what the wildlife will do. And a lot of times I'm wrong. But here's a points that I've learned on predicting their position so that
You
you
should
don't
have
go to
reminded it
them.
wasn't over there, honey.
You don't go to them,
Well, why
but they
didn't you?
come to you. Any questions? Okay. So here's a cove, the little land, and then a lot of times they like to nest inside there because it's kind of protective. Sometimes they nest in an island, very protective. Here's a common loon with a baby, and here's a photographer on a kayak. So let's say uh, loon is going to this direction, and usually within their kind of small territory, especially when they're have a baby, when they go one direction, they go one direction. Okay, until they feel that they need to turn around and go the other way. So if you see them going one direction, what you do is uh, move to where they are heading without going toward them. So you don't go toward them. Okay, what you do is if you're anticipating here, what you do is you move here and wait for them to come. So what you do is another thing is you want to have enough spaces that they have an escape route rather than trying to be like here. You see what I mean? So you stay away and then you anticipate to come. And you want to have sun behind you because the light is everything. Wait for them to come to you. If you're right-handed, turn kayak perpendicular to loon from the left side for maximum panning ability. Okay, snap. Any questions about that? Okay, I'll move on. Okay, here's another video that I submitted to National Audubon. Okay, here's some my favorite way of photographing common loon or any birds. Any birds, you got to have eyes. Okay, and for me, it's not just about eyes, but I really have to see the pupil, the black center pupil. And the only way you could really get that is if you have a great light. Okay, but loon, I also really want to see their neck area, which is what I iridescent color, uh, and you gotta have sun for that too. See, here is a one adult common loon, and the when I talk about eyes, see that little black eyes there? Um, it's really only their eyes are so small. Um, they really have to have sun shining on them, and their neck. Here's a blue section, and there's a green section here. They're iridescent color, so it's really important. Like to have a side shots. If it's a frontal, I love flights. Here's a loon who is sort of circling the whole lake before he flies away. It's sort of circling to say, this is my territory, so stay away. And here's a flight shot, take off, because the loons are so heavy. They're about 19 pounds, and I believe it's one of the very few birds that has not a hollow bone like other birds, but it is a dense packed. So in order for them to fly, they have to run on top of the water for a long time before they could really have enough momentum and the lift to fly up. And it's just such a beautiful sight. Another thing is obviously baby loons. They call loonlet on mother's back. It's my favorite moment. They're so beautiful, so cute. I love environmental shots. Used to be just always a close-up shot of birds, but I like to take the whole environment into factor, like this one. I call it environmental shots. Okay, avoid all possible to prevent blowouts of white chest. There are a lot of birds that have white chests, buffleheads, snowy owls, common loons, and if you don't factor that in, you're gonna have blowout. And once you have blowout, you can't recover the detail. So here's in case of a blowout of loon, and all the parts are I call it right exposure, but the chest part is not. And the way I deal with it is I always kind of underexpose my photos, especially if the bird has a white parts on it. And then I'll talk about that, how to fix that in the post process. This is something that I look forward to each year. Okay, New England snowy owl. Um, Snowy owl is the heaviest bird, owl in North America. On your left is a great gray, which is the tallest owl. They could be up to 33 inches. I've seen that in Minnesota. But look at the weight difference. One's about 4 pounds on the left here. This is about 6.5 pounds here. Um, they're extremely strong flyer. A lot of times people say they fly against the wind, but snowy owl, they can fly whichever direction they want. Very, very strong flyer. Here's a snowy owl flying in a gusty wind in coastal New England. Snowy owl is reclaiming his kill, which is a duck. And you could see that snowy owl was flying against the gusty wind. Very, very strong. Okay. Oh yeah, majority of the snowy owl who comes here is a juvenile. And as you know that in Arctic tundra, they like to eat this lemming. But here in New England, they like to eat voles, rodents, and some birds, rabbits, and ducks. I would say their favorite is ducks and any kind of rodents. I do remember one time a crow came and was harassing the snowy owl, and it was harassing the snowy owl whole day. And the last minute, the snowy owl decided to just catch him and eat him. So they don't really know who they're dealing with in that case. Here you can see a snowy owl just had a big meal of duck here in the beach. Okay. The snowy owls are usually active early morning and late in the evening, just like other owls. Okay, here's a snowy owl prepared to fly, and if you want to take a photos of a flying uh, um, snowy owl, they go through some pattern. They open their eyes, they preen, they poop, okay. Shark photography and wildlife photography. I'd just like to cover briefly about that. My goals are to obtain their eyes open, a feather detail, and flight shot with two controlling elements. Exposure is one, shutter speed. Usually, when I try to take both those snowy owls and loon, loon when you're taking photos on the kayak, it shakes a lot because of the boat, and obviously the snowy owl they're flying. So I have shot as low as 1/600th of a second of snowy owl flying, but typically I like to shoot 1/16th of a second. Uh, but I don't think that either one needs a greater than 1/2500th of a second, especially snowy owl. That it's a low light situation. So if you would be lucky getting a 1/2000 second. Um, but it is very important to get a high shutter speed because one rule of getting a shark photo is that you can't have a blurry subject. So it's very, very important to get a good shutter speed here. Aperture, I usually shoot wide as possible. I don't really care if the wingtip to wingtips are focused, but I do care that the focus on eyes is critical. And with the modern mirrorless camera, that has the capability of capturing eyes, it really helps do that. Um, I shoot auto ISO, and my camera has the ability to set the maximum ISO. I usually do either 3200 to 12, even 12,800 because I do a lot of owl. I shoot at pitch dark environment, but my goal is to be less than ISO 1400. Sometimes I shoot manual ISO, but most of the time I do auto ISO because as I pan the camera, the light condition could change, so that's what I do. But a less than 1400 is my goal. Um, like I said, in auto ISO, I want to avoid blowing out white parts, so I do 3/4 of stop, exposure compensation dial. Distance again, closer to the subject, sharper. It's just it's a pixel density issue. More light, better it is. I know some people say, "Oh, I don't like harsh light," but for me, more light, better it is. I just have to compensate for it. And also, what's nice about having light is that you don't have to go to the subject closer because the light really gives you um, enough of photons to the camera sensor, and it gives you a sharper picture, so you don't have to go so much closer. Could crop more. I'll talk about this later on, but this would be an example of a sharp picture, I guess. Okay, we talked about the predictive photography of loons with using a kayak, but how do you do that with snowy owl? Like I say, it's called predictive wildlife behavior. You really have to learn the specific snowy owl patterns in their behavior, and you have to know the snowy owl's territory. In our area, sometimes we have 3 or 4 snowy owls in one particular reservation, and they have their own territories, and you sort of have to learn that. And then you determine where the food is. Does he like ducks? Ducks are usually on the river. It's in jetty, so after he sleeps during the day, he will fly toward the water jetty. Which way is he keep looking? Okay, that's a good information to know that he might fly to that direction. Which direction is Snowy facing? All this clue gives you which direction he's going to fly. He does fly against the wind, but I've seen a lot of times he takes off against the wind, but he flies wherever he wants to. Okay, so that's a rule about snowy owl because they don't always follow that against the wind to get a lift. And I always look for, like the video. Did the snowy owl open their eyes? Are they preening? Is the eyes open? Are they pooping? And then they're ready to fly. So that's when you get ready for. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay, here is a strategy I have in this particular beach. Okay, and this is about predictive positioning. Snowy owl. This particular one always in the morning flew that way. Let me just show that again. Okay, he flew that direction. What that means is, like I said with loon, once they fly that direction, he typically goes in the same direction. So what a lot of photographers do is that they like to be really close. So a lot of photographers like photograph right there. Okay. So what happens is when they take off, good only shot they could get is what I call a butt shot, butt shot. Okay, and you don't really have a great shot, even though you could. I mean, I think it's good to get a shot here, but what I do is, okay. But one thing is that to not go on the beach and grass area. That's a protected area. But here's a question: does snowy owl prefer to fly over the land or water if not hunting ducks? They like to fly on the land. Which direction was Snowy flying? That direction. So what I do, Mr. O, on the bottom right corner here, I position myself here. Okay. And it's a predictive positioning. The sun's behind him, so he's ready. So you could be waiting for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever. So here's what I got as I was waiting for that particular snowy owl. You notice that he's looking at me, but he's not stressed. He's just looking at me, okay? Because he's flying toward me. Okay, I'll just show you a few things. A lot of times, cropping in directly on the subject is not necessarily the best photo. I like environmental shots. Here's a snowy owl sitting on the beach with the waves pounding on the back. This is snowy owl, obviously, on a sunrise, on a pole, on a log, another log here. And I love going out in the snowstorm to photograph snowy owl or short-eared owl. It's my favorite time. Dangerous, but I love it. I just like to show you one particular thing about editing here, and I'll stop after this. But here's a photograph. I call this a panic shot. Okay, this particular male. There were other males, and they were ready to fly from right in front of us, but I didn't see it, and it was so close, and I just pressed my button, and if you look at it, it looks like a severely underexposed photo. Okay, but so if I'm masking, a lot of people go to subject and try to mask, let the system do it, but a lot of times they don't do a very good job. I mean, this is pretty good, but a lot of times it bleeds out to the surrounding. So what I do is what I like to do is I really like to use I'm going to delete this mask, delete that. And I like to use an object. It's a manual process, but I just go like this. And I'm going to exclude that particular area because it's blown out. See, I don't have to be really precise. Oh, it picked that up. So I subtract object. See that? So do you see that? Like only that white part is not. So what I could do is I could, make it lighter. Shadows, increase the lightness. And then I could crop. Okay. And then see this part here that's blown out? What I could do is I could do mask again in here, select object, just pick this. Okay, now what I do is I increase the highlight. See that?
Yes.
It's getting sharper, right? And it's not really creating something that doesn't exist. It's there, just that it's been blown out. And then I add texture, and that gives you a feather detail even more. And I could do the same thing with the chest here. Object. I just select the chest area, the white area. And I can make the thing come out a little bit better, a little bit dirtier looking. I might make it a little bit whiter. No, I like the definition there. And then I could add more, and I could do radial gradient around the eyes. Could change here. Could shift a little bit, and I could make it even lighter. Or you see you see a slight. I don't know. I like it. Yeah. And I could do this. I could do something called linear gradient, and I could go like this. Uh, and then I can make this bottom part of the water lighter. Do you like that? Um, yeah, so, I know the sun was coming from the left side. So, sometimes, I like to make the thing, but it's sort of artificial, you know what I mean? I don't want to do that. A lot of people do it. So that's how I edit. But it's important I believe that to get the real sharp picture, um, I think it's best that what you do is just little three dots. You go duplicate and invert mask. So what it does is it picks up the background. What am I have to take this out here? Okay. And then what I do is I make it background lighter. So what you have is you have more contrast between the black-headed subject against the lighter background. So you give you more popping out effect. So,
You use the
all right.
DxO for any of the masking?
No, DxO is strictly for denoising. Okay. In fact, this particular picture has some noise. If you want to really pixel peep, see that there's a lot of noise over there? So what I do is I launch DxO by going File, and there's a plugin extra. It's called Preview DxO. Now this is software called DxO here, and you launch it, and it makes this product right here. See how all the noise is gone after DxO? It's all smooth. This is the old. See all these noise? And the new is all the noise are gone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I run DxO on every single photo, even though really nice lighted ones. It just makes the whole photos. I mean, I feel noise is one of the biggest contributor of not a sharp picture. So, any other
Dan,
questions? Yes.
hi, I have a question. What about the denoise that comes in Lightroom? What do you think of that?
I like them. I don't think they're quite sophisticated as DxO. DxO has ability to detect what lens you're using,
Oh,
and
okay.
it has compensation for distortion, and also the chromatic aberration, and all those different feature. And it automatically detects that you have like a Canon 100 to 500, and that has a special algorithm to compensate for that. And what's really nice about it is this. I remember I criticized Topaz. I hate to do this, but I'm sorry. Um, they create artifact in order to sharpen, have an impression that it's a sharp picture. They overdid it. So a lot of times you create a color noise and artifacts. The DxO, I notice it doesn't do that. In fact,
Okay.
The Topaz, it would ruin the eyes. Like, all these little things, it will overdo it, and it will have multiple colors in there. And this is DX, so you don't have to do anything with it. It just comes out really nice. Topaz,
That's a good deal.
you have to subscribe, annual subscription. Topaz, you buy it once, and it's yours, and free upgrades. But I believe I prefer to use Lightroom noise reduction than Topaz. I think they have a now super resolution denoising capability here. It's quite good. They also have Lightroom. I mean, Topaz products, they sell and increase size of the file, and now the Photoshop has that. So you could double or quadruple the image size, but still retaining the sharpness. So, okay.
Other questions? Other questions? Anybody here?
Excellent photos. I enjoy following you on social media. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. I
Yeah,
enjoy doing it.
Congratulations on your awards. That's very hard to do.
Yeah, thank you.